Hey guys, welcome back to Ken Michaels Radio. And I got to tell you, I've enjoyed all these recent interviews, really all the interviews I've had here on this channel, all talking about the Beatles. And I've had some wonderful guests here on Ken Michaels Radio. And speaking of wonderful guests, we have Kevin Harrington returning to us. This is our third interview. I've truly been blessed. Talk about someone who worked with the Beatles, worked at NEMS, worked at the Savile Theater, worked for Apple. We did a lot of talking on our previous interviews about that. And also we did quite a bit of talking concerning Mal Evans and Kevin's life after the Beatles as a roadie, which I would definitely advise all of you to check out. But I thought after doing those two interviews, this was at a time when we were hearing about the Get Back documentary and Kevin hadn't seen it yet. And I thought it would really be great if he can come on and share with us his thoughts about the full documentary of nearly 8 hours in length. And so we welcome back Kevin Harrington.
Thank you very much indeed, Ken. It's been good to come back.
Yeah. It's such a pleasure talking with you. And
that's why it's good to be back.
Yeah. I think I told you that of all the interviews that I've had on my channel here, the two that were with you are the most watched.
So that's embarrassing. Thank you very much. Thank you. Oh, well, thank you.
Okay. Instant karma.
You can't see it, but I feel as though I'm going red at the moment.
Okay.
I can't see it.
Well, your hair is not red like it used to be, but your face, I guess.
No, that's true. I just blush a bit higher up on the forehead.
All right, so almost everything we're going to talk about, I figure, will be about this documentary. And I'm sure all the fans watching want to know your impressions. But first of all, a very obvious question. Watching Get Back, did it bring back a flood of memories for you?
Yes. Yes, it did. It did indeed.
A lot of things that you had.
But also what it brought back was a lot of things I'd forgotten.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so in the book, there's quite a, it's not, I suppose one could call it, some of the things are not factual.
Really?
Oh yeah, I mean, like in the book, it says I was on the other side of the studio, and I just saw it and didn't hear anything from the distance.
Mm.
Well, looking at the film, I couldn't have been any closer to George.
Right.
You know, when he walked out. But I just thought I have this image in my head of George getting up and putting his coat on. That's in my head. But him actually walking out, I don't remember at all. So when that story used to come up, or when it, you know, it was, that must have been it when I saw him put his coat on and walk out. You know, so there's lots of, you know, amazing little insights that even I had forgotten about. And yeah, so it was interesting. It was interesting.
It's got to be something for people who were witnessing the whole thing. And let's face it, this is 53 years ago now when this happened. And I can't imagine that you remember everything that went on back then. So this has got to be a blessing for you and the other people who are still around to witness this.
Yeah, I mean, if we hadn't if we've forgotten all those memories, you know, I'm just sort of perplexed. And I'm trying to sort of look at myself and go, how did you not remember that?
Mm.
You know, this is, you know, that was momentous. But to me then, it couldn't have been. It was just another day in the life.
Right.
You know, I never listened to the conversations. I always heard what was going on, or I always heard what was going on, but I never listened to the conversations. So they could have been talking about anything. And I could have been, you know, as I was, you know, just 2 or 3 feet away. Somehow it wouldn't have registered because they're all talking together. I'm not involved in that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that's in my head how that happened. You know, that momentous moment just sort of disappeared out of my memory.
When they were talking to each other, you weren't really paying attention to that?
No, no, no. No, I never sat down and listened to their conversation.
Hmm.
No. That was an intrusion as far as I kind of sort of felt, you know, that's their business.
Right.
You know, and in the studio, it's the four of them. You know, when they got their instruments on, it's the four of them. It's not me.
Mm-hmm.
Mal would notice more because he's of his history.
Right.
But personally, no, I was certainly separate. You know, it was, you know, I heard many things, you know, over those 2 years, but they're not things that struck me as being worthy of, you know, because it was just them being the Beatles.
Right.
You know, it's just them talking, you know, and all of a sudden George gets up, oh, you know, and then you see what happened then and you think, oh, I was close. I was closer than I said in the book.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, so it's, you know, I hope people understand that one because a lot happened in those 2 years. But, you know, but let it be.
Yeah. What's tough for some fans to understand is that a lot of people at the time didn't recognize the historical significance of what they were doing. This is just what they did on a day-by-day basis. Nobody thought, hey, we're going to be analyzing every move the Beatles ever did years later. So, you know, that's just a normal way of living. You know, it would be great if you know, that's one of the revelations about this that I've talked about on my podcast, how wonderful it is to see how much footage there is of the Get Back, Let It Be sessions. And we don't have that of the other Beatles albums. And if we did, oh my God, people would be buried in that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that would, you know, that would be a lifetime's, you know, viewing.
Oh, sure.
You know? But it's kind of, you know, as just put 8 hours, you know, that kind of encapsulates what they were, who they were, how they felt, you know. I mean, it's a perfectly good portrayal as far as I'm concerned. You know, it's...
When you watched Let It Be, when the film came out, did you think that was a fair portrayal at the time?
All those many years ago?
Yeah.
No. It's... No, I still, you know, I remember, you know, all of that fun and laughter. That's what, for me, that's what they were all about, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You know, yes, you know, I certainly heard in the later stages, you know, arguments or, you know, loud discussions.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's what it was. You know.
I don't know how much you paid attention to, say, what John Lennon was saying after the Beatles broke up, especially towards the end of 1970 in Playboy, how the Let It Be sessions were the most miserable sessions on earth, and that it was a film for Paul, by Paul. And, you know, a lot of people over the years had that impression that, you know, these were horrible sessions and everybody was unhappy. And so a lot of people believed it, including Paul and Ringo, you know, because I don't know, even it's strange because like a year later, when the movie came out, they watched it, they must have thought this wasn't all there was.
Mm.
There were plenty of happy moments as witnessed in Get Back.
Yeah, I'm sure, you know, but I don't know how they viewed it then. I can't even remember that. And as far as what John says, once I left the Beatles and went on the road, the Beatles were out of my life until Mark Lewison got in touch in 2000s, you know, so they were gone. They were, you know, they were something which, you know, I didn't really sort of think about, spoke about sometimes, but you know, people ask you, you know, no, that was it. You see, I'd never really read articles or anything, No.
So anytime any of the Beatles gave an interview and talked about the old days as a band, you weren't really paying much attention. That was,
No. I think, a lot of it was most probably just because it reminded me of the good times. To be honest. So, yeah, no, that's why. And since Mark got in touch with me, just sort of going on this one, it's blown my mind, this Beatles thing. It's, and it had been going on since they broke up, or before they broke up. I never realized how phenomenal all of it was, that thing, and how it is now. It's still mind blowing to me. I didn't see any of this for years, but anyway, yeah. Okay, that was just, sorry, Ken, that's just a little aside, about Beatles.
It's just a normal reaction when you're talking about any recording artist that was very popular at the moment. You don't stop to think 10 years from now, 30 years, 50 years, whether or not people are going to remember the artist, how much the music is really enjoyed, and if new generations are going to discover them. It really is, it is a phenomenon. And when I see, especially in the last few years, the Beatles box sets to their albums from Sgt. Pepper through Let It Be, all making the top 10 in the United States,
Yeah.
50 years after it's recorded, more than
I know.
It's amazing. It's truly
amazing. Younger generation, which, is doing those sales. Let's face it, the older generation, we've got all this stuff anyway. Maybe we don't have the record players anymore, but we've, see, I don't even play their music.
Mm-hmm.
That's, but I don't play anybody's music. I've had enough of music. So,
well, I think it's also the first generation and the older generation of fans who care enough to want to know all the alternate takes, and demos and stuff like that. They want to really get deep into the catalog. And then thankfully you have a lot of new fans, and some of them want to explore that, but a lot of them are just going on Spotify or YouTube and discovering the music that way.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, and it's a good, you discover the music first, you see. That's the beauty of the Beatles. The music always comes first, and, well, this past 55 years has come later, So, yeah, it's good. It's good to see.
I know that you've said that this was a job for you.
Yes.
So I'm wondering if you would ever consider yourself a friend of the Beatles. No. Would you have walked up to any of them and just started a conversation on your own, or would you have waited until they started one with you?
No, I'd go and say hello. Do you remember me?
That's it.
Yeah. Hello, it's Kevin. Yeah, I'd certainly go up and say hello.
Right.
Thank them, really, to be honest.
It kind of tells you how the Beatles operate. I'm sure that there was some kind of decorum that you had to follow. Maybe you didn't just walk up to them and start a conversation because they might have been too busy, but did you have to wait?
No, see, you're talking about friendship, or you're talking about just everyday, we're working together, well, hand in glove, if you like.
Mm-hmm.
I'm there all the time. So we always spoke, but when you're talking about friendship, I'm talking about, you don't go out to dinner with them. You don't ring them up for a chat.
Right.
Right. But in the studio or out in the streets or, loads of conversations. But it's, they're everyday conversations.
Mm-hmm.
I had a conversation with Paul on the bus going from his house to Apple. I don't remember what the conversation was, but we had a conversation.
Sure.
So, it's when I lived with George, and I think it must have been quite possibly the beginning of the All Things Must Pass album. I think I was living out there then. And so I would come in and out with George And, you know, we had loads of conversations.
Mm-hmm.
Going back 3 o'clock in the morning, you know, just talking about daft stuff, you know, and all of that, you know. Yeah, so, but friends, no. You know, oh, yeah, no, they were good people to be with. They were certainly friendly. It was,
Right. Okay.
but I was I wasn't a close associate, but I was reasonably close associate. You know what I mean? You know, in those sort of terms, you know.
Well, I think part of the reason why people enjoy the interviews that we've done is because you come across as genuine. You know, you're not going to make yourself out to be more than what you were, but yet you did quite a lot of work for them anyway.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. Most probably, at one point in my life, I was full of it, but that would have been about 50 odd years ago.
Okay.
You know, because I'm sure it affected me somehow. You know, looking at who I was on the screen, you know, it was kind of, oh, yeah, well, it was that close. You know, even though I knew it was close, but when you look at it on the screen and you suddenly realize you're sprawled on a piano seat, you know, well, it's like, yeah, okay. You know, it's, yeah, no, it was good. You know, it was, I mean, there's a point where there's Ringo, Paul, I think, possibly Neil, Dennis O'Dell, Lyndsay-Hogg, maybe. Can't remember what, and I'm on the end just reading the paper. Mm-hmm. You know, that sums it up for me, was that. But then George came in and I was up and ready.
Uh-huh.
You know, and that's the picture of me. I think of how it was. I was there, but I was just reading the paper. You know, I let them get on with what they need to do. And when they need me, I'm there. As George, you know. So that's how close I was. And it was suddenly, oh, yes. Good Lord. You know, yeah, interesting. So it took me a long time to watch those 8 hours, though, Ken, I must admit. It did not come easy.
Was it emotional for you?
No, it was, to be honest, I was bored. Well, I'd seen it all before. It was, you know, I had been there, you know, and I know how boring it was, you know, listening to these songs going over and over and over again. You know, that's it. To me, it was just, it was boring, but that's me.
Right.
I'm not saying they were boring. I'm not saying the film was boring. I'm just saying I found the experience of watching it boring, because at that time for me, even though it was exciting, it was boring. You know, because you're just sitting there. All right, yes, sure, you're watching the music and the antics and all that, but you can't go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
You know? You have to be there. And
right.
Sometimes it's boring, even though all of this is going on around you. I mean, I even found out on the Double White album how boring recording could actually be.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that Let It Be was slightly different than being at Abbey Road. Actually, a lot different than being at Abbey Road. Because at Abbey Road, it really was boring, because there was nobody else about except the studio guys upstairs.
Mm-hmm.
For them, security man out front, me and Mal. And, you know, 3 o'clock in the morning, things can get pretty boring. So that's how I kind of just view any recordings that I see. It could be a Rolling Stones recording. And I just think, yeah, that's, you know.
Well, you know, it's all in the way that you look at it. And we're just
Exactly.
There are plenty of fans who wouldn't have minded listening to every take of every single song and being in the same room with them. But when it's your job and you're used to it, you kind of, I guess you take it for granted.
That's what it is. You do. You know, you get up and you just go to work. I just happen to work for them, you know, for 2 years as an 18-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, the accumulation really is on the roof. You know, that's,
from what you observed during these sessions, did you sense frustration on the part of George Harrison building?
No. Because not really attuned to it, in so much as, yet again, I am not listening to the conversation. I can hear them,
right,
but I'm not listening to them. He could have been saying something about, you know, guitar playing, you know, or something musical. But I wouldn't really have noticed the frustration in his, you know, demeanor.
Mm-hmm.
That's for sure. Yeah, it's you know, it's difficult because it's, like I said, I'd only really just sort of got to know them, really.
Yeah.
So I didn't really know the nuances of how these things worked, being so young and just in almost, I suppose, in awe of what I'm doing. You know, it's a lot to take in for an 18-year-old suddenly, you know, you're working for the biggest band in the world. It's kind of, it is monumental.
Was it overwhelming at times?
Overwhelming? No, maybe not overwhelming, but it was fairly monumental. But then I just settled into it.
Right.
And it was just Mal. It was just every day, you know, the same thing. That's how Mal was. You know, it's just a job. You know, let's get on and do it.
How did you take when George walked out? Did you just think, you know, this is just, well, he'll come back the next day? Or from what you might have observed, even though you may not have been hearing every conversation, did they seem genuinely worried about this? Or did they think, oh, he'll come back the next day?
I don't remember, to be honest, Ken. I'm not going to make something up.
Yeah.
I don't remember. You know, I would assume that I would have thought he would have been back. You know, but that's just, you know, somebody walked out, you have an argument, they come back the next day or whatever. So, but I don't know how deep it was. I can't tell you how deep that argument was. You know, that's for you to tell me how deep it was. Being a scholar.
One thing you got to realize is that we're all trying to figure this out.
Okay, yeah, it's all right then. That's all right. I'm not doing very well helping now, am I?
No, but it's a frustrating thing. I love reading as many books as I can, interviewing as many people as I can. But as I've said many times, we're never going to know everything there is to know about the Beatles. And especially, we're never going to know their relationships in detail and how complicated it was. It's very hard to figure out. And there's only so much they're going to tell us. And I've heard that as much as George was frustrated in that he wasn't getting as many songs being recorded by the group, that he was also having trouble at home with Patty. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but it's been put out there. Maybe that was building. Maybe that was part of the reason why he was frustrated and he felt like he had to leave. You know, all you have to do is listen to all the interviews, gather as much information, and determine as much as you can on your own. But yeah, there's a lot of people out there extremely knowledgeable on this subject, but some of it we'll never know everything.
Yeah.
In every detail, no matter what. You know, we're still learning. You know, I mean, Get Back is a real eye-opener. If you're used to Let It Be, the film, all these years, to see them genuinely enjoying themselves, joking around, having fun when Yoko is doing her song, you know, all of them taking turns drumming. You know, it's joyous to see all this. It's not all gloom and doom.
No,
And
that's right.
it's obvious when you see that.
That's right. That, I mean, that is, and as I sort of said before, that's how I sort of saw them in the studios. It was just, that's how it was. Somebody would come in, sit down, maybe play something on the piano or a few chords, and then that's how it started. And that's, and I just saw that so many times,
Mm-hmm.
you know, over those 2 years, 3 albums. It's, you know, so it'll always just be amazing that I was there. But it was, what's sad for me is that I don't actually relish it as much as I should do.
Mm.
Because, yeah, they were good times, but they were also quite excruciatingly boring. but but it's a hurry up and wait situation, you see, Ken. This is the thing.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, you're doing stuff with the Beatles, and, you know, you go somewhere and you say, yeah, I've from Paul McCartney, yeah, Paul, you know, you're in the door or whatever. I mean, that's just wonderful. You know, whatever I was doing, you know, it's, so that was good. That was exciting. But, and then you get to the reality of the recording,
Mm-hmm.
and you're just sitting there, just waiting. Then it's, you know, then it's, yeah, it's very difficult. So you know, I'd say, but you know, you have a few smokes just to get through the night, you know, really.
Mm. You didn't find it fascinating to see the recording process? A song would
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
I did do that, but not being technical, all of that machinery, you know, it could have gone to the moon as far as I was concerned, you know, and every night was almost the same. I would sit there until the 4 of them were actually just recording, just rehearsing what they were going to record,
right.
Whatever it was. They, you know, they've all come together as one to whatever song it's on, and then you know, so that could take half an hour or so, 40 minutes. So you're just sitting there and you're watching all of that and listening to that, and then you go out. So you see it every single night, and so you just get used to that process.
Mm-hmm.
How it is, you know, studio 6:30 set up, bands 7:30, everybody happy. Okay, I can leave now. So, you know, you're in the studio for about, I'm in the studio for sort of like 2 hours, you know, in and out, but I'm there in the studio, just watching all of this, just making sure they've got everything they need, along with Mal. And but Mal would probably be upstairs making telephone calls.
I got to tell you, I mean, the purpose of this interview is to get your perspective, not so much mine. But the most, well, there's 2 very fascinating aspects of watching this documentary. One is the fact that in a very short period of time, 3 weeks really, the Beatles had a deadline. They were trying to come up with enough material for a full album. They had to do a TV special. That was, you know, that was what was planned. And they had to do a concert. So the fact of watching this band and coming up with songs from scratch, even though, you know, eventually when the album came out for Let It Be, you still had Across the Universe on there, which was an older song, and they brought back One After 909. But still, to be able to do all that in this short period of time is a fascinating thing to watch. Also, how their plans kept changing for what they were going to do for a concert, and they couldn't make up their minds until they finally decided to be on the Apple rooftop. I mean, the talking back and forth with Michael Lyndsay-Hogg, I don't know, I guess, unless you were really listening, did you find this whole thing interesting as it was going along, or, use the word a lot here, frustrating because they kept changing their minds? They had to come up with the goods, you know, in just a few weeks. When you're watching this on the screen and you realize you were working with these guys, I'm sure you were aware of what was going on and how their plans kept changing. And how did you react to all that?
Well, you just go with the flow. You do what they want. You know, their main thing was the music, so that's what they're doing. All the filming and stuff, really, the way I see it is that was secondary to the music, but they just wanted to make sure it was right, you know. But I don't think any of you ever see them sort of behind the camera or, you know, saying get this or get that. It's just, they just leave it up to the people who are doing it, right? You know, like the cameraman and everything else, and then it's up to Michael Lyndsay-Hogg. Now it's Michael Lyndsay-Hogg's desire to go somewhere glamorous and exotic and, you know, camera friendly.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, you've got people that are just going, no, I'm not going to do that. I don't want to do that. You know, and that's their right. You know, it's just one of those things, you know, you have to live with. So I'm just there going, you know, tell me where to set up, and I'll set up.
Mm-hmm.
That would have been my attitude then. Well, tell me where you want the gear, you know, I'll set it up. But in the end, it was up on the roof, which I'd heard about the amphitheater, and it did kind of put a little twinkle in my eye.
Mm-hmm.
But que sera, sera, you know, whatever will be, and it was, let it be up there. You know, just okay. Let's do it. You know, that's where I was. That's where I'm coming from. You know, and that's from Mal's perspective. It would be okay. How would I get the gear there? Mal's would be logistics for them. So that's what all he would worry about.
Mm.
Camera stuff would be for Lyndsay-Hogg. You know, and so that's how it was, you know. Little compartments, and this compartment says where we go and where we don't go. And the other two compartments just follow. You know, and that's what happened. And eventually, you know, the roof it was.
From what I understand, there were plans for Mal to travel to the amphitheater.
Yeah, I'm sure he would have done.
Yeah, but because George had quit temporarily, they just, you know.
No, Mal would have gone out there first to recce it, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Without a shadow of a doubt. You know, they wouldn't have just turned up on Lyndsay-Hogg say so. I don't think they would have Mal say so.
And, you know, when you listen to all the comments of how the Beatles handled what they were trying to accomplish in this short amount of time, you were just saying it's all about the music. Paul was thinking also of the visual presentation. He was kind of, there's even a quote in there, you know, where he's kind of, John is saying, you know, this is, no matter what, this all comes down to our next album. And Paul is like, it's always the next album, where he's thinking about something much grander. He wants a bigger payoff. You know, he's thinking about the concert, you know, or where it's going to be. So, you know, it lets you know where their heads were at. That's another thing that I find so fascinating about the whole thing, is each of them had different attitudes about, you know, what might have, what was going to happen at the end of this month. Because, you know, Ringo didn't want to go abroad, as you know, because he was about to shoot The Magic Christian. And, you know, John, it just seemed like there's this one moment in the film where Paul is asking John, how many songs do you have? How many new songs? And he says, none. You know, and Paul is coming up with a lot of material here. And in truth, you know, John did have some new songs, like Don't Let Me Down already, and he was writing Dig a Pony. But it didn't seem to be this great concern of John's to get everything done. If you got 5 songs ready for a concert, fine, that's what we'll do. I'm sure Paul wanted a lot more than that. So you get to hear their different opinions. And George is the most interesting of all, because he basically had this attitude of, whatever it is that we do, the public accepts it anyway. So there's nothing to worry about. You get to see Paul being very nervous, you know, and feeling the pressure of getting all this done within a month. And the others, you know, not that they didn't care, you know. Maybe you can answer this one thing for me, because it suddenly dawned on me after watching this whole thing, you know, what if the Beatles didn't accomplish any of these things in that month? They weren't under contract to have a new album out by the end of the month. They weren't under contract to perform anywhere. They didn't sign a contract with Twickenham Studios to have a TV special. So what if they didn't get all that done? What would have been the harm? You know?
Was it because Ringo was starting to film?
Yeah, but let's just say they got some songs finished for the next album, but they didn't have a full album. It all came down to the fact that Ringo had the Magic Krishna do, and let's get something done before then. That's it.
It's something like that, I'm sure, is what it was. It's best to look at the timings, but to me, that seems logical. The only thing I can say at this 55 years later, you know, that if Ringo's going to be out filming for 3 months, or whatever it is, you know, it's, yeah, they got a deadline, I suppose. You know, let's do it before he goes out.
They just finished the White Album. The White Album came out. The White Album came out the end of November. That's fairly recent.
Yeah, so. yeah. This is. I don't know. Like, you know, I'm not a Beatles man. You know, this is why I rely on people like yourself and Mark Willison to answer any questions that I have, if I have any. But you know, sorry to get to sort of say it like that, but
sorry that I have so many questions. This is how my
carry on. Like I said, I'll gladly answer them if I can, but I'm not gonna BS you.
Okay. How do you feel the way Yoko was portrayed in the film?
Absolutely fine. That's how it was. That's how she was. That's, you know. You see, the film to me is just, that's how they were. That's how my life was. You know, it was that, you know.
Right.
Just looking after 4 people, occasionally 5, you know, some of the wives, but just, that's my focus for 2 years. And that's, yeah. And it was good. It was how it was. You know, it's a true portrait, I think.
I think a lot of fans were shocked when they watched the film to see that Yoko wasn't, you know, interfering in the sessions. She was always by John's side. She was either reading a newspaper or knitting, you know, and she was just there for support.
Yeah, you know, I got used to the presence. It was, you know, where's John and Yoko? It's, you know, it was where's John, you know, oh, where's John and Yoko? Yeah, that's how it was from day one when she first turned up in the studio. You know, she'd follow him out and she'd stand outside the loo, wait for him to come out, and then she'd walk back into the studio with him. So it was, yeah, for me, it was weird at the time, but yeah, no, it was, you get used to it. That's what it is, and that's how it is.
Right. Because there happen to be recordings that you can hear where Yoko is making suggestions about the TV special, what might be an idea for them. And this is not a criticism of Yoko in any way, because John wanted her there. So, but you don't see that in the film. You don't see that part in the film. You only see the rehearsals. So, you know, I don't know. I guess you weren't there when they were having those discussions.
No, but I wouldn't see it as a criticism. that she's sort of saying this to John. You know, it's a conversation she's having with her man, and it's about him. And you know, so John I should imagine would always, you know, feed off ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Ideas were good. You know, yeah. So that's fine by me. Yeah.
Okay, like I said, it's not a criticism; it's an observance.
Yeah,
but it's just, you know, if you think that Yoko was completely silent during that time, she did make some suggestions.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, no, she, you know, she was there. You felt her presence. You knew she was there.
Okay. Anything you want to say about the other women? Did you talk to Linda or Maureen at all? Or
Yeah,
what
yeah,
that was like there?
Yeah, I knew them all. It was, you know, I went round to Ringo's place. He used to live up in Hampstead.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to come up there, it seemed, at one point, for quite a bit, dropping various things off. And yeah, so no, I got on with Maureen and Linda. You know, I got on well with them all.
Mm-hmm.
I had no problems whatsoever with anybody, which was, yet again, another bonus. You know, everybody was lovely.
Sure. Well, one thing that I was a little bit surprised at in watching Get Back is after the Apple rooftop concert, and they all went down in the basement and listened back, which was, what a wonderful moment that is on film to capture. And they're all smiling and laughing. And the word I've used time to time is exhilarated by what they went through. And Linda's there. And Linda was not on the Apple rooftop. So I'm wondering why that was. You had Yoko there, you had Maureen there.
Oh, I don't know about that one.
Yeah.
Don't know about that one. I thought she was there, but okay.
Yeah. Do you remember, were you in the basement at that moment when they were listening back?
I would have been, I'd have been getting the gear down.
Okay.
No, I spent an hour or so just bringing all that downstairs.
You had the fun job.
I had the fun job.
There's no chance at all that, I mean, there were 2 meetings with George to bring him back to the Beatles at Ringo's home. You weren't there for any of those, right?
No.
Okay.
No, I know I wouldn't have been involved in anything like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You know, I was, when they were an entity of 4, then I would definitely be there. If it was an entity of 1 in the studio, I would be there. Right? But if it was an entity of 2 at home, there'd be no reason for me to be there. You know, especially since they're having a private meeting anyway, a band meeting.
Okay.
You know.
All right. This is for anyone who's wondering if there are times when you could possibly be an insider.
No, I mean, even if I was, I don't think I'd say anyway, but I'm not. You know, that's private conversations. You see, you can understand, I was not, this is difficult. I'm so proud of what they did for me.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of inviting me into their very private world, which is the studio. And I feel as though I owe something back, because one of the reasons you see, I was trusted.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I was there. So even if I had ever heard any sort of conversation like that, I don't think I would have ever told anybody anyway.
Mm-hmm.
You know, to be honest, it's, you know, it was a privilege being invited into that place at Abbey Road. It really was.
I hear you. So many fans listening to you would act the same way. In no way am I asking for any dirt of any kind. I just wanted to know if you were there.
Not even dirt. It's, it's private.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I view whatever they said anyway. It's private.
Uh-huh.
If other people are around and they want to say it, that's fine. But I will not sort of say hither nor thither about a private conversation. It would never have happened anyway. Because I was brought up that we never spoke to the press. And that was from NEMS Enterprises.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how far that sort of lesson goes back.
Right.
So that always kind of stuck with me. Okay. Yeah.
Since you had to do, as you explained to me, setting up of equipment in the studio, did you have dealings with Magic Alex?
Occasionally, but he had a little workshop near, I think it might have Marylebone Station or somewhere like that, a little news place, and that's where we kept the equipment, the band equipment.
Mm-hmm.
So I would go there occasionally, or would see him in the office, but yet again, that was part of the Beatles. I mean, he knew who I was, I knew who he was, but we didn't sort of sit down and talk about electronics.
Okay. Even though you said you're not technical, there was that time when you had to, George Harrison offered his 8-track recording mixer into the studio. So how did you find working with that?
An 8-track mixer?
Yeah, an 8-track he brought into the studio, his own.
Right. Well, I wouldn't have touched it.
No,
I wouldn't have touched an 8-track machine.
Okay.
No,
but did you observe it at all? Did you?
An 8-track is an 8-track to me. It's so George brings in an 8-track, so there's another 8 tracks in there. It's like John bringing in a guitar. It's okay. There's another guitar sitting there. Do you know what I mean? It's hey man, that's the engineers. You can have that.
Okay. So everything was that well defined there. So everything was that defined there. So your job was very often, among many things, you'd bring the instruments in.
Oh yeah,
but microphone stands in. You bring mics in.
No, not really. No, that would be left to the studio engineers.
Okay.
I'd just set the gear up. Make sure it's all in its right place, and then they would come along, mic it up.
Mm-hmm.
I never ever really touch the mics. Might have to move one occasionally just because it's in the way, but it's wherever the engineers want to put the mics. That's where they stay.
Okay.
We just work around it, but they're not in the way anyway. Just mic stand.
For all that's said about Twickenham, that it was cold that January. They had to get up in the morning. It was dreary. They didn't really like working at Twickenham. Of course, you see both sides and get back. But did you notice a big difference in the attitude of the Beatles going from Twickenham to Apple?
Yeah, it seemed. Yeah, I don't know. It kind of seemed a bit more close, a bit more intimate. I think it's that mammoth studio was not intimate. You can't make music, and I've said it so many times. You can't make music in a cavernous place like that with all these people surrounding. It's not intimate. You do need a bit of intimacy between 4 people to make music. And I think it's close to walls is what it is. As soon as they got into Apple, it shrunk right down. So you're closer, you feel warmer. You know, your coat's off because there's heating.
Uh-huh.
You know, so all of a sudden it's a more pleasant atmosphere to be in for a start.
Sure.
You know, you have warmth, no coat. So, and it's home because it's your office.
Yeah. It makes a lot of sense.
It really did change. It certainly did change.
Mm-hmm. How did you find, you know, when Billy Preston came in? Did you spend some time, you know, talking with him at all? I mean, the atmosphere really kind of lit up.
Yeah, no, and that was great. George asked me if I could look after Billy because he was staying at this hotel called the White House, I think, just near Regent's Park. So, you know, I sort of would look after Billy, so to speak. If he wanted something, I'd, you know, see what I could do, etc. So, yeah, no, got on well with Billy. Got on really well. Enjoyed his company. Nice man. Nice man.
Can you tell me something that you remember about those times that maybe weren't captured in Get Back? Anything that might have been left out? Kind of hard to say because it's almost 8 hours of film, you know, and it's an awful lot to go through.
It is hard to say that, I must admit, Ken. That's been your hardest question, I think. For interviews, you know. Yeah. Remember something.
It's tough on you, huh?
No, you see, because it's whatever I remember about that time before I watched the film. You know, now that I've watched the film, everything that I remember before is all jumbled up. You know, because, oh, yeah, right. Oh, yeah. Oh, and so, yeah, it's a difficult watch on some of it, you know, because you've already sort of spoken for 20 odd years about certain things happening, and then you watch it and you realize that didn't happen, or it didn't happen that way. But when it did happen, everything in the book you see happened, but not in the order. Now I've realized that they actually happened. You know, it's like when, you know, I don't remember John saying, or anybody saying, Kevin can hold the lyrics. I don't remember that at all. Right? I just vaguely remember John wanting a music stand, not actually asking me to hold the lyrics. So I mean, so that's messed up after 55 years.
Yeah.
So that was a surprise, you know. So there's things that just happened. Oh, that's how it happened. So it was nice watching the film for that, just to be reminded of how certain things happen. You know, but the other things that I remember happening, which was just the hours of you know, guitars and, you know, because you got to remember this went on for how long was it?
It's like 3 weeks.
3 weeks, yeah. So, you know, every day, it's the same thing. I got a tune here, you know, or I got a bass line, you know, and so the days start to get Groundhog Day, but just with an ending tune, you know, really.
It's a little more than 3 weeks because they had a few days off, you know, during that time. Did you work on a lot of other Apple sessions other than the Beatles? Like, for example, James Taylor, Jackie Lomax, Badfinger?
I didn't do James Taylor because that was Peter Ash's baby. I didn't do Badfinger because they had their own 2 roadies anyway.
Okay.
Right. What I did was Doris Troy. When she went to the studio, looked after her, a bottle of Drambuie. Every night. Hey, give me a bottle of Drambuie. Yeah, Doris. Thank you, honey. Yeah, Jackie Lomax.
Yeah.
That was at Olympic, I think. I can't remember where we did Doris, so that's the thing. Mary Hopkins. Mary Hopkins.
I'm leaving that in, Kevin. I think Trident was, I might be wrong about Jackie Lomax, but then you would have also have observed, a lot of great musicians on those sessions, and Eric Clapton and Peter Frampton, so many.
There was a lot, and you just sort of, you basically, if Ringo's doing a session down in Trident for, who would it be, Madeleine Bell, you're looking after Ringo, but you're looking after them as well. You're looking after all the other musicians.
Mm-hmm.
Because Ringo's doing a session, you don't sort of just look after him and ignore all the other musicians. They're musicians,
right?
You just take care of them all. So and that's how it's always been.
How was working with Mary Hopkins?
It was lovely. Yeah, that was nice. That was nice. So daytime studio for a start, which it was weird being at EMI in the daytime with Paul. I think we did there for about 3 days or something. Yeah, Paul asked me because they was kind of like about my age, if I would sort of just just be around, just for just as company, I suppose. So she beat me at chess, and never played again.
Paul beat you at chess?
No, Mary did.
Oh, Mary did. Okay.
Yeah. So there's that was about it really. Who else was there?
Was Paul very involved with that album, making every suggestion for the?
He that was his baby. That was
right. So were you there for the sessions for like Those Were the Days? That must have been that was an incredible recording.
Yeah. But I'd just be sitting in the reception.
Yeah.
I'd just be wandering around. Can't wander around during the day there, so I'd be in reception or sitting in the studio. But in the studio, in the control room, it was a little bit small in those days. I've widened it out a bit now, but it was slightly smaller.
Mm-hmm. That's an album postcard that I really enjoyed. There's a lot of Apple stuff that's really great that fans should explore. But Those Were the Days. This is such an incredible arrangement of all the instrumentation there, and there's a children's chorus, and there's a lot was added into that. So you observe that.
Yeah, but I yet again, it's just like one of those sessions. I just don't really remember it because it's, it's I tell you what, Ken, it's like 2 years of sessions,
right?
Almost, that's all I did was studio work,
right?
So everything is just like, okay, next one, and it's the next one, and then it's the next day, then it's the next studio, and then you just forget what you've just done because your head's into, okay, I've got to go down to Wardour Street now to Trident. I hate going to that place, and that sort of, so that's gone.
You're reminding me of when I first started doing Beatle programs on the radio. I especially enjoyed interviewing session musicians, and certain ones have been on hundreds and thousands of sessions, and you can't expect them to remember everything that they've done. And when they're doing one after another, bang, 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 very often several in the same day, it's a job. And it's a shame because so many of these recordings are classic recordings that they work on.
Yeah, but they'll most probably be listening to the radio and go, that's me.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember it now.
That's what David Spinoza said. David, one of the great session guitarists, he was asked to be part of a session. He wasn't told what the song was. He was just needed for a few bars of a guitar solo. And he laid it down and they said, okay, that's fine. He never heard the whole song. And a few weeks later, he's in a taxi and he's hearing the song being played. And you said, that's me. And it was Dr. John, right place, wrong time. And he never knew that was the song. So I'm sure there are lots of examples like that from, there's certain session players that were on countless recordings, not to mention the Wrecking Crew and people like that. So yeah, you're reminding me of that.
Good. Yeah, so I'm not the only one then.
Let me ask you just one or two questions about Mal Evans.
Yeah.
Did you stay in touch with Mal's family after he died?
No, I was just on the road. I just all of that was behind me. I just spent 16 years traveling. So, well, no, right. 7 weeks. So I spent 10 years traveling at that point.
Right, because you're aware that there's 2 new books coming out on Mal.
Well, I know that Ken Womack's got one.
Yeah, well, I just interviewed Ken about that. And, one of them is an extensive biography of his life. And the second one's all diaries and manuscripts and the book he was working on up until he died, which apparently he finished. So did Ken contact you at all as an interview to,
I'm sure I've spoken with Ken. I'm sure I have.
Okay.
I know I have. Yeah, I've spoken with Ken.
Yeah, I should have asked him when I interviewed him.
I know I have. Yeah.
Yeah.
We've been
it'll be a revelation for sure to find out all this stuff that we don't know about Mal's life, but you have spoken so highly of him here on my channel, and you learn so much from him, what he taught you, as a roadie. You want to say a few words about him before we wrap things up?
There's Mal, Mal means so much to me. His memory will always live with me, just because of what he did for me. You see, I'm not talking about all the stuff that he taught me about being a roadie, but the fact that he trusted me to help him look after the band. Now that, to me, that was something. That's up there with being welcomed in by them. It's accepted by them.
Right.
The fact that Mal started that process because he had, if you like, he saw something in me, some faith in me, and that's, I could never ever not, remember him for that. But he was, it was just sad the way he went, and it's, for me, he was a good man. I still kind of sort of miss him, but it's a difficult one, okay?
Well, we did an interview where you spoke quite a lot about Mal. The bulk of the interview was about Mal.
Yeah, I know, and to talk about Mal is one thing, but my feelings are kind of, there's something else.
Mm-hmm.
Bless him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Beatles were lucky they had him. No doubt about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad I spent that amount of time with him. I did. Yeah, it was good. Well,
the word that just popped into my head is loyalty. The Beatles loved him for his loyalty, and I'm sure that the Beatles welcome you because of your loyalty to them and to Mal. So
I hope so. That'll do me. That'll be all right.
Okay. Before we go, I know a while back, one of my listeners had asked me if you could talk a little bit more, because there's a long list, and we only tackled some of them, of your life as a roadie. Wanted to know, what it was like to be a roadie for Derek and the Dominoes.
what was it like?
Yeah.
It was something else. It was a difference between chalk and cheese. It was, when I first stepped into the studio working for the Beatles, it was a whole new life.
Mm-hmm.
First went on the road with Derek and the Dominoes. It was a whole new life. It was, yeah, it was for somebody like myself that just wanted to go on the road. It was the perfect start. If you're gonna jump in, by God, jump in.
Yeah.
And I jumped in with both feet.
Mm-hmm.
And it was absolutely fantastic. I got so many memories of Derek and the Dominoes. It's unbelievable. And that's how much of you always know what sort of a tour you've had by how many memories you have of it.
Mm-hmm.
And with Derek and the Dominoes, I have loads and loads, because it was phenomenal for me. It really was. You know, coming, you know, face to face with the police for a start, and nearly getting arrested. Just amazing trips, you know, driving with Bobby Whitlock for 10 hours because we were driving. I was the roadie, the drum roadie, basically, but I looked after the bass. But the tour manager, who I knew, a Liverpudlian, Bruce McCaskill, he wanted a baggage man. He wasn't going to deal with all the bags of the band.
Mm-hmm.
So I was primarily sort of the baggage man / roadie. So I would travel with the band, you see.
Mm-hmm.
It made it easier for Bruce. And so he would get them up, and then I would go and get their bags in the morning. And for some unknown reason, and I still to this day don't know how, we both got to the station wagons, and Bruce is going, "Where's Bobby?" What do you mean, where's Bobby?
Mm-hmm.
Well, where the fuck is Bobby? I don't know. Didn't you get him up? I don't know. Well, we're going to miss the flight. So you're going to have to go and get him up, and you're going to have to drive to the next gig. And that was like, 10-hour drive, I think. It was just phenomenal. So I said, "Bobby, listen, man, this is what's happened, and we got to drive." He went, "Oh, man, this is fur." And got into the car. I went, "Right, here we go." And he opened up this bag of pop again, and it was like an ounce.
Uh-huh.
And he went, "Kevin, we're going to smoke all of this before we get there." And he just proceeded to roll one after another for 8 hours. It was phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. Still don't know how we got there. But,
how was the driving?
I've got a feeling it might have been sometimes slightly erratic, but mostly it was all right. It was all right. No, it's fine.
It didn't take longer?
No, funnily enough. No, that was my silly days.
Uh-huh.
That's what, yeah, but that's another story. But yeah, got there just as they were doing the sound check. And it was fine. But it's just, you know, just that sort of, where's Bobby? Oh, Christ. You just, and it's all of that little everyday sort of, you know, stories that just I got into, just, you know, just stupid stuff, really. But yeah, so it was an absolutely amazing time. San Francisco was just incredible. See, another mess up. So there's lots of. Yeah. So tell your fan that it was incredible. It was absolutely incredible. One of the best I ever did.
Someone should make your life into a movie, I think. You know, I remember talking to you about Spinal Tap, and, you know, you said so much of what you went through is what happened in that band. So,
Oh yeah, oh yeah. No, that's my all-time favorite film about rock and roll is Spinal Tap. God bless him.
there's a lot more reality in that movie than most
There-
people realize.
It really is. Even the smallest nuance is real. You sometimes you're just thinking, wow, oh, and then you got to look at him over there because the drummer's just, nonchalant doing something there while the main play's going there, and this is in the dressing room number, and you're thinking, yeah, right, this is really how it was, man. You just, and then the tears come to your eyes and you can't see the rest of the film. Funny.
Somebody should approach you and to make a movie.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Put it on Netflix or something.
Right. Well, Netflix are not doing too well these days, are they?
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah.
There's room for you somewhere. Your story's got to be told.
Yeah.
By the way, that your book is still, I was checking on Amazon, it's still available on Kindle.
It will always be available on Kindle as long as Let It Be is on film.
And Get Back.
And Get Back, I mean. Get Back. Let It Be, Get Back. As long as that's on, then the book will be on,
Yeah, well, in our description box, if you want to order Kevin's book, it's called Who's the Redhead on the Roof? My Life with the Beatles. Kevin, it's always a joy to talk to you. And I say this to so many of my guests, this is your home whenever you want it.
And thank you very much indeed, yet again.
I know that you've had a heat wave over there in Europe. We've had one here, and you don't have air conditioning over there.
No.
Anytime you want, move in here. I got air conditioning, but this is all the room I got.
No, I'll stick here. I'll just do my caveman thing.
No, okay.
Just close everything up and turn the fan on. That'll do.
Okay. Well, you're still looking good. And
yeah,
thanks so much for doing this again. And God bless you.
More than can, and thank you very much indeed. Had a lovely time again. Thank you.
Okay. And to all of you watching, thanks for tuning in. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. Appreciate your being here. We'll talk again soon. Take care.